Hello, everyone, here on our UGA Sports YouTube channel. This is UGA Sports Live with Rodney Navolsi. I'm Dane Young, but you're here to listen to Jim Donnan, the former UGA head coach and College Football Hall of Famer. He's the one that keeps this train going and making sure that we have all the information and analysis that we need for UGA. I'll let Roddy talk about our sponsors in a second, but frankly, based on what we've seen over at the dog vent, I want to talk about what happened at practice yesterday. Roddy, we had 4 UGA Sports team members at practice watching UGA get ready for Vanderbilt. I'm going to toss it to you and just what did we learn from that?
Well, we learned that things are kind of getting back to normal. We asked Kirby Smart in the press conference, hey, how do things look? Because he mentioned that he had a spike in that week one. They had a few guys out due to COVID, and he said, and he immediately said he knocked on wood. He said, look, right now we're good, but this is a continuum thing. He said, I can say we're good, and then 15 minutes from now, you get a call about somebody who's not feeling well. So he didn't want to he didn't want to say that they're back, but I thought it was a huge deal that for the first time since 2019, the Georgia beat media got to go in and watch part of practice. Now, we didn't get to watch a whole lot. We only got to watch like 6 minutes, and the part that I was watching was the ball security drills, which I know a lot of people kind of roll their eyes like, oh, you only got to see ball security. Well, Georgia's even on the year for turnovers, so they're not ahead 3 or 5 like that. Through 3 games, they're even. So that means for all the turnovers they've had, they haven't created more than they've gotten. So it's something you work, and coach will tell you work on it every day. But we got to see the guys doing ball control stuff. We got to see the offensive line up a little bit. We got to see some passes from JT Daniels. And I think everyone's freaking out over the fact that George Pickens was out there and he was running routes. And we've been telling folks that George Pickens has been running and George Pickens has been at practice. And we mentioned that in one of the scrimmages, he's down on the sideline just running like a maniac. This is not brand new news, but it's the first time reporters saw it. So when they put it out there, it almost – and again, I'm not banging on Kirby Smart, but when he says, hey, we like where these guys are back, we like where these guys are in their recovery, it's almost as if we were verified or validated or confirmed by the beat media reporting, hey, George Pickens is running routes. So, I don't expect him to come back anytime soon, but just the fact that he's on the mend, Kyrus Jackson, we got to see him in the game this past Saturday. He's on the mend. Devon Willock was close until he had that hamstring issue, but he could come back. Kirby Smart told us that Darnell Washington, Tyke Smith are, putting weight on their running. They're doing weight-bearing exercises. This team that put up 40 points last week, Coach, could be getting back some prime players to really get this thing going. Although I don't know that I don't say you don't need those guys, but they've been doing pretty well without them. So we didn't get to see a ton of practice, but we got to see practice again. And it was very exciting just to be able to put our eyes on these players and kind of see what they go through and look at some of the guys that could be joining them. See Tyke Smith out there doing some stuff. See Darnell Washington out there doing some stuff. I just think that's as good as Georgia's been so far. I think you've got to be even more excited about what they could be going down the stretch.
Yeah, I mean, I know that the media has their own little deals, but they've played 3. Seen those kids in 3 games out there doing the same thing. They got the practice uniforms instead of the games. But you mentioned Pickens. I mean, realistically, he's had an ACL injury, and we want him to come back. But I don't know that we can project that any more than we can project when these other guys. And I'm not talking about what anybody's thinking there. It's usually a 6-month deal. But the big thing for him was he didn't have anything else happen to his knee. So maybe that clean ACL will help him a little bit. And I know he's motivated. You see him on the side, definitely engaged with the players. He's not, over there sulking because he's not playing. So it would be a big boost to us. I know people have said, hey, it really helped stock. Look, this guy's a number 1 draft choice if he clears the medical deal. When he goes to the combine and he clears that, I mean, he's just got too many skills and there's so much need for receivers. So you can talk about that all you want. People say, well, if he doesn't play, he'll be a 3rd or 4th round draft choice. That's bullshit. This guy's a 1st round draft choice if it's cleared. So From a standpoint of the game, I was really pleased with the fact that we were playing against a team we grossly outmanned, that we had kicked their butt really badly last year at the end of the year. But we went out and took care of business for the most part, except for that easy throw that they got when we weren't lined up right, which, that worries you a little bit. It always worries me about us trying to sub, and we sub so quickly that most of the time, but if it doesn't work, then they catch you with a guy uncovered, and by the time speed caught up with him, he was behind him. So we got to work on that. But our ability to run the ball efficiently against a good line, this is good. They got some good players up front, and we were able to clear the line a couple times, and hit the right holes. Very patient. Passing game was really sharp. Particularly from a standpoint of going in there and the ball back and forth on third down. This team was first in the nation in third down defense. They'd only had 3 first downs out of 27 going into this game, and then we go in there and just function tremendously hitting those first downs against them. So JT was really sharp. And I hate it for Stetson, but I also feel like that Kirby Smart's a very guy, and this guy's put up a lot of good stuff for Georgia, and he deserved to go in the game. And we would have been playing a different opponent. I don't know if that would have been the situation, but I really don't question that. Anybody that questions that, that's their opinion. But let me just say this: we played 4 tailbacks. We played 4. We play 15 defense, and we play about 8 or 9 receivers. We played 4 tight ends, so there's nothing wrong with putting a team quarterback in that's won as many games as he has. And it just ended up being a fluke play. It didn't work out good. So I don't really worry about that part. Our kicking game completely destroys people. I mean, when you look at everything we're doing in the kicking game, particularly the return game, set up that last touch, the field goal at the end of the half was huge. And we continue to kick off good, cover punts good. It was just an amazing end of the first half where they called timeout and we got, the field goal after the safety. It was just very good. I do question what we were doing there with 2 minutes and 45 seconds to go. People say I don't question enough. I do question the fact that 2 minutes and 45 seconds to go, we got 2 timeouts and we run 4 straight plays and don't make a first down after the first one. We were throwing it, but maybe Kirby was thinking, hey, we don't want to give the ball back. So that's the way it worked. But we gave it back to them because we had a lost yardage play. So when you're throwing the ball as good as we can, at the end of the first half, I would like to see us open it up a little more, but that's just me.
All right, I'm back. Coach, I know a lot of people were kind of freaking out about that, but to me, it's very simple. When you have a guy that's who's giving you what Stetson has, and he was the SEC rating offensive player of the week. He torched the defense, the UAB defense. You think that he could come in and, I don't know, had he scored, I don't think people would have freaked out as much, but he came in and the cognitive bias, the self-fulfilling prophecy of he's not a good quarterback. He threw an interception. I know he's talking about JT's interception later on in the game. It's just a double standard. I don't like it.
We're just wasting our breath here. Their opinion. And that's okay. They're entitled to it. But I really do feel like that the guy deserves the opportunity to play in that game early, and it didn't work out as good. But we're going to need him. You never know with JT's situation. Who knows? He might get hit again in the ribs. He might hurt his knee. I mean, I'm glad we got Stetson. So, but as far as our team, I look across the country and watch these games very, very closely. And, I like where we are, wise, coaching wise, philosophy wise. I like where we stand right now watching these other teams. We don't miss tackles like Alabama does. We don't miss assignment like some of these teams do. We did miss a situation where a guy didn't get lined up quick enough, but that can be rectified. But I was really dismayed the way the inability for Alabama to tackle in the open field and their ability to adjust to what Florida was doing. But, you know, I'm not going to get on any soapbox about how Dan Mullen's such a great coach. I mean, he definitely is a coach, and he basically did a tremendous job in that game, but he's also 2-29 against top 20 teams. And, you know, he's whatever he is against Nick and 1-3 against Kirby or something like that. So Dan was coaching that first quarter too, when they got their ass behind 21-3. So we'll see what happens there.
I do think around the country, you're seeing offenses really struggle to start this season. And some of it, I think, is youth at quarterback. There were so many experienced quarterbacks that move on from the top teams, you know, at the end of last year. So we're seeing Ohio State struggle on offense at times. We're seeing Alabama not be able to push the ball down the field. Florida really can't pass at all unless it's right around the line of scrimmage. Even Oklahoma coach is struggling with a guy like Spencer Rattler, and they've been kind of struggling to win in every. Yeah, I mean, it's Georgia's ahead of the game on offense, but I don't know if it's necessarily because of Georgia, because everyone else kind of came back. So what I'll be curious to see, you know, outside of what Ole Miss is doing with Matt Corral, how do the offenses develop here over the next month, 2 months? Because I think the road only gets tougher for Georgia. Not this week because it's Vanderbilt, and that's as easy of a road as you have in the conference. And Georgia will populate the stadium, and the game will be over by 12:15. But still, it's an SEC team, and so you have to go execute and do what you have to do. And Georgia's offense has done that better than I think most teams in the country are.
Yeah, here's the point that I would make along those lines, and you're right about quarterbacks, but there's such an influx of 7-on-7 talent that these kids do really well on 7-on-7. I mean, they get all these stats and all, but once they get in a game and you have to do all the things you have to do and you get to rush. I mean, Spencer Rattler to me is an example of a 7-on-7 quarterback that is really good without the rush. But when he gets the rush, I mean, he has a hard time. I mean, this is the first time that Oklahoma has scored under 25 points since I think Riley's been there. And, you know, Nebraska's a decent team, but you know, Oklahoma, to me, got to make a move and at least give Williams a chance, because what he does is he can move around in the pocket and he can run a lot like the previous two quarterbacks that did so well and won the Heisman Trophy. You know, Rattler just can't move around in the pocket, and they got no running game with them. I mean, their running game, people are just challenging them to run the ball, and they can't do it. So you need the quarterback runs. Same thing with Clemson, the passing game, just not there. And we're not here to organize what's wrong with these other teams. But I know this, that I'm really glad. And I told you the first week on this show that I wouldn't trade our team for anybody in America. I said that completely, and some people laughed at me. But I wouldn't do it today for sure, because we got – you know, like Kirby said, hey, we're just going to keep improving. But Roddy did a good job of going over the guys we haven't had. But to withstand an injury like we had in the offensive line, a really good player, Ratledge was coming along, and put our line back together. I still feel like we're probably going to put a bigger guy in there at right guard down the road. Truss, you know, somebody there that can be a little more mass, a lot like Ben Cleveland, although I think Erickson's playing good. But let me just tell you this. Part of life is the glass is half empty. That's for everybody. I think people they drive themselves nuts with it. But I'm going to tell you right now, Georgia's glass is more than half full, and it's rising to being overflowing. It's going to be overflowing, and the people are going to love that. Because I think our running game's coming. You get Washington back out there along with Bowers, and it's going to be ugly. It's going to be real ugly. I'm talking about just like Black Saturday for a lot of teams when those guys get out there together.
Yeah, especially when you look at how well the defense is playing, lights out. I love the clips that Dane and Brent had on film don't lie. You're watching this poor South Carolina running back trying to make the corner, and here comes Trayvon Walker's waiting on him. Here comes Devontae Wyatt and Jordan Davis and Kobe Dean. Actually, it was like 5 players all hit at once.
And the view was from field level. And I think sometimes when we watch on TV, we don't understand how big these people are. So yeah. Jordan Davis, I mean, Shane Beamer was right. Jordan Davis runs faster than the average person at that size. That's crazy.
They clocked him at 20 miles an hour in that UAB game. So, I mean, that's not fair for somebody that's 6'6", 340 pounds to move like that to cover. You know, you're on the far hash and you make a tackle on the opposing sideline. That's just insane.
And what you see there too is opposing teams. You know, you're coming in trying to win the game and find a way to win, but when you're setting up your offense and realize it's going to be really for you to score more than twice, maybe more than once, so you got to get something with turnovers, which. That's what really saved South Carolina from getting annihilated. I mean, the fact with the 3 turnovers, but realistically, you're making that plan to say, look, and you're talking to your defensive coordinator and you're saying, look, I don't know if we're going to be able to score more than twice, and you better hold them to 2. And he said, look, you come over here and watch the tape and you tell me how we're going to stop all these guys. So it's a very difficult situation to plan for Georgia as a team right now, because you gotta win the special teams. Nobody's gonna win the special teams against us unless our guys don't show up. I'm telling you, I'm talking about coverage. I'm talking about kicking. I'm talking about return. It's just elite special team. It's the best part of our team right now. Even though our defense is good, we still got issues defending the pass, which we said that when the season started, and everybody said, well, hey, you're wrong. But I'm right. You know, Speeds had 4 passes thrown on him, 3 of them over his head, and the other one he had a pass interference. So, hey, he's got to – they're going to target this guy. Ringo's coming on. You know, DK does a good job, but he gets beat too. So, but what you got is that line that, you know, opposing quarterbacks know they're going to get the dog beat out of them. I mean, it's bad. I mean, it's ugly the way they hit it. Not just the – sacks, is the hurries and the balls batted down. And the thing I would say about this show is we got to answer the questions and we got to do all the stuff. But, hey, we need to enjoy this team. Yes. And let's don't worry so much about what we don't have, but let's revel in what we got. Let's enjoy it and don't be so worried about all these things. You got no control. The unknown, you got no control. We don't play Florida for 3-4 more weeks. Arkansas, sure, they're good, but hey, I like a shot against Arkansas. Kentucky, Chattanooga had them in the 4th quarter. I mean, that doesn't bode real well right there. So I'm sure Kentucky's better than that, but I just don't see. You know, Florida's certainly got some good players, but. We'll see how that works out there.
I'm with you 100%, Coach. That's been one of my pet peeves for years is that Georgia fans can't enjoy stuff. We tell them, hey, these guys are doing there's a damn good dog fund where you got these 5 guys who are using their NIL abilities to raise money for charities. And I get, well, is that going to help us win a title? I'm like, I'd say, hey, Georgia's assigned the #1 recruiting class for the 3rd time in a row. Does that get us a first down? Like, God bless. Can you folks just enjoy the fact that you're in Athens on a beautiful Saturday? You know, the weather's nice. It could have rained Saturday. It didn't. You blow out a South Carolina team by 27 points, and you're mad that you didn't cover the 34-point spread. I mean,
yeah, that's not good, though. That part makes a lot of people mad, and I can understand that. So that was there was a lot of people, and we were talking about it on our show, that fumble was not one of the best things right there. So
you're right. We do pick at the scabs.
You got to cover, Kirby. You got to cover.
He does, but it's that you know, it's just that Georgia fans have been burned so many times. They're looking for what's going to let them down next. And my point when I predicted that Clemson was going to beat Georgia in that first week, I'm like, I was trying to set people up for the fall, if you will. I'm like, look, or not the fall, but I'm trying to mitigate the fall. Like, look, even if you lose to this Clemson team, you're doing it so shorthanded. And that's before we even knew Tate Ratledge was going to go out in the first series. We're like, you are going to get some of these players back, and these guys are going to get better and better. And yes, there's concerns in the secondary. We have a question from UGA Alum 95. I'll jump on that real quick, but like, enjoy the season. Enjoy the, the Swedish fish eating Jordan Davis. Enjoy, Nakobe Dean doing his best. Roquan Smith. Nakobe Dean on his blitzes is insane. That's fun to watch. JT Daniels lighting it up. Stop worrying about Stetson Bennett. Jesus, enjoy the fact that you got him out there. He won a game for you, was a player of the week. And then JT Daniels comes back and he wasn't stressed. JT Daniels was able to take a week off and you beat a good UAB team without him. And I'm going to go back to what Dane was talking about. These other teams are struggling offensively. We were told that you got to have a spread offense and a great quarterback who pulls a Mac Jones or Burrows type year. And the game has evolved. And right now, a lot of these teams would be happy to have a great kicking situation like Georgia has, a ridiculous defense like Georgia has, and four tailbacks out there who can run the damn ball like Georgia's doing. And Georgia's only going to get better in that run game. Football hasn't completely changed. Running game, passing attack, good defense, kicking. Right now, Georgia and Alabama look like the two best teams in the country by a mile. I'm not saying it's going to be that way. I mean, it can go sideways fast. We know that. And I guess that's what Georgia fans are worried about. It's like, what's going to happen next? Why don't we have this guy? Why don't we have that guy? Don't worry about it. Just enjoy this teamwork that you got because this is fun football. I'm sorry. It is just
I think it's hard to project, the games and who's going to play and all that. I mean, certainly that's part of the show. We'll answer the questions, but
speaking of questions, let me hit UGA Alum 95's coach. He asked, South Carolina was able to hit some deep passes on Georgia. Is that still a concern, or can that something that can be coached up and fixed?
Oh, sure, it's a concern. I mean, it's been one of mine ever since we started talking about this team all year, is because our own team does that to us. Whether it's A.D. Mitchell or whoever it might be, we haven't been as good at that. But at the same time, we can change the coverage some and do some different things to help the guys out. But we just got to do, as Kirby was talking at his press conference yesterday, we got to do a better job on technique at the line of scrimmage, and playing the ball in the air is certainly something that you got to work on. And I think even you and your astute analysis, and I don't know that you must have copied somebody, but you said one week that, hey, we got to do a better job of playing the ball in the air. And you must have listened to me or something about that.
I completely stole that. Absolutely.
We don't play the ball in the air that great. We'll get better at it. But there's no Kirby brought it up. There's no we don't have much depth at receiver or cornerback, and it hurts us in the scout teams. That's why we go against each other so much. We lost 7 guys last year that could have been here. So, and the DBs, and then we had some receivers transfer, although none of them were that great, but they did give you depth. So, but I'm encouraged by seeing a guy like A.D. Mitchell. I see the way he's been coached up by our staff. We brought him in the last year in the spring, and he's really gotten better. And he can separate, and he can catch the ball out. And 81, the Rosemary Saint, he's going to get better too. But hopefully, Kieris and Arian Smith. We played without Arian Smith last week. He had some leg injury. I mean, Arian Smith can go deep, and Blaylock. And I tell you what, when we go into a game and they got a scouting report, and the defensive coordinator is either in the press box or on the sideline, and then he said, "Who's this number 8? Who's number 11? Who's number 10?" We haven't seen him, but these guys are starting over these other guys, so. You're going to see, and I applaud too. McConkey's done a good job of stepping in there and blocking and catching the ball when he needs to. He's really a good team guy. And Johnson, those guys are coming in. They're doing some good things. But realistically, against the better teams, we're going to need these receivers that we've been missing. And like I said, if we can go to 12 personnel, or actually 3 tight ends with Fitzpatrick, Bowers, and Darnell Washington, if these wide receivers aren't up to snuff, it'll be kind of like our stuff where we're playing 2 running backs in there at the same time instead of 3 receivers. We can go 3 tight ends and just mash their ass. I mean, it'll be a mash mouth there.
Roddy, I know you're going to mention Athens Ford in a second, but I want to seize on a point that Coach Donnan made earlier, and it kind of relates to the skill guys here. What Jay Camarda is doing for Georgia, he is one of the team's most valuable players. And typically when you say that, that is not a good sign for a team that your punter is one of your best players. For Georgia's case, though, he is playing at such a high level, and he'll have a shank every now and again. All punters do. But you think about the two punts that were down within the 7-yard line against Clemson. Arian Smith shot down there, downed them both. And then now Amir Speed did the same thing at the 1-yard line against South Carolina. I mean, he is a weapon, and he does a ton for this football team. So I hope that fans, there's always the tendency to, all right, they're about to punt, I'm going to use the restroom, right, and get a snack from the kitchen. Watch the craft that Jake Camarda has at punter. And I say that, like, that sounds so silly for me to say. Notice the craft he has. He's doing this at a professional level. He's so damn good.
Yeah, here's the other point, too. I'm going to give some love to our defense here. Usually speaking, during the course of a game, the other team will punt 5 or 6 times. First 2 games, the other team had punted 18 times. I'm not sure how many times South Carolina punted, but at least 7 or 8. So we're averaging the other team punting the ball 8 to 9 times a game because of the fact they're not scoring. So when they're punting, you're changing field position night and day where our team's starting. Very seldom we start outside of our inside of our 20. I mean, we got short fields a lot of the times, and that all points out to running more plays and scoring more points. So, I applaud our defense for making the other team punt. I used to tell our team, if we can make that other team punt, very demoralizing to them because they start thinking, how are we going to get a first down? How are we going to get field position? Where are we going to get the ball next? It gets in their head, but not to mention looking over and seeing 99 and 44. I remember when I used to play against some good teams at quarterback. One of the things that used to worry me a lot walking to the line of scrimmage was looking over at that other team, and not so much that they were big and physical, but when I looked in their face masks and they didn't have any teeth, that really worried me. Going to the line of scrimmage. And I'm sure that most of our guys have got teeth, but they got a lot of power behind that. And you look at, it's demoralizing to look at those guys and think about what you're going to try to do. And I might be going overboard, and we can lose a game. I don't know. We're going to have to lose it, though. We're going to have to give it to somebody because it's going to be the kicking game is huge for us, and I can't say it enough. It's just huge.
Well, you talk about kicking, and you're going to have good kickers. You have to have good socks. And we have a new sock sponsor I want to tell everybody about. They're called Dead Soxy, DEADSOXY. Check out Dead Soxy. These are a couple Ole Miss grads who are fantastic guys. Jason and his crew are lights out. They came up with a fantastic design for socks. They have these ones. I love the American, the red, white, and blue socks. Those are fantastic. But they had these socks that are made from bamboo fibers, and the yarns that they use are amazing. They're incredibly comfortable, no seams on them. You don't, if you're a walker or jogger and you have their athletic ones, you don't feel that seam pressing against the top of your feet as you run. Their dress socks look great, but it's the alumni collection I like so much. They have these red and black socks that just look great for all the Georgia fans. They have 4 different styles. You can't beat them. But if you have an LSU fan in your life and you need to console them with their trials and tribulations, you can get them socks in the purple and gold. If you have a very sad South Carolina fan in your life, you can take care of them as well. So point being, check out Dead Soxy. Get these socks that have the True Stay technology. They actually stay up. I can guarantee you that somebody with calves as big as mine, socks are a pain in the butt to keep up because they want to roll down or they want to cut off circulation. These do not. They stay up. They stay comfortable the whole time. They're a pleasure to wear. I find myself in the no-shows just walking around the house, and it's summer and I haven't taken the no-shows off because they're just comfortable. So if you get a chance, check out Dead Soxy. Use promo code UGASports for 25% off. You can't beat that. So if you get a chance to try those out, do so. Also, I want to mention our friends over at Athens Ford. They sponsor our Watch Along show, and I'll be on the Watch Along show this weekend to basically drink a lot of Bud Light. But that's all I contribute to the show. But Our watch along show was called out by ESPN, and I'll let Dane talk about that in a second. But we wouldn't have this watch along show if we're not for our friends at Athens Ford. They are huge in the Georgia community. They're huge in Athens. They are the number one Ford certified pre-owned dealership in Athens, or excuse me, in the state of Georgia. All their vehicles come with a lifetime powertrain warranty. Any of their new vehicles and pre-owned vehicles up to 80,000 miles on them. They have discounts for students. They have discounts for military, former vets and current active duty, recent graduates and students. They all get discounts on their cars. And Brian Clower and the folks over at Athens Ford are huge Georgia fans. The reason they sponsor our show is because they're giant fans here in Athens. They're glued to the TV come Saturday. Now, if you want to go in and take a test drive over there on Saturday, don't come on Sunday. Come on or come on before the game. But I'm sure they'd be willing to leave the game or stop watching to help you buy a car. But don't do that to anybody. That's cruel. Just don't plan a wedding on a Saturday. So just go see those guys during the week, or go see them before the game, or see them after the game. The game's at noon this Saturday. After the game, swing by Athens Ford and pick them up. Check out the Ford Bronco over there. Check out the Ford F-150s. Those are the 2021s are amazing. So check those out when you get a chance. Dana, I know we had some questions there, but I want to touch on the shout out we got on ESPN.
Well, I mean, some of that came from Coach Donnan and his professional, relationship, and then also just personal friendship with Sean McDonough. I know that Coach, you and Sean spoke some late last week, but third quarter, we didn't hear it in real time because we're doing our own show, but we were told, hey, you guys just got a shout out on ESPN. And sure enough, we go back and find it, and Sean McDonough says Jim Donnan is active in this community. He loves the people of Athens, and he does a watch along show that is on YouTube. And then all of a sudden, here comes people finding us on YouTube. It was really cool.
I love it.
Yeah, I appreciate Sean. We've known each other a long time. Back to when he was doing the CBS game when I was the first time I met the Auburn game where we won in the overtime. But I've always had a good relationship with him, and we were supposed to eat lunch on Friday, but you got this thing from ESPN that they didn't want the guys leaving the hotel and all because of COVID and all. So we just kind of talked talked about what I thought about some of Georgia players and stuff like that. And then he asked me if I was coming to the game, and I told him no, I did this watch along thing. And so I had no idea he was going to give us a shout out, but that was good. Peyton Manning and Eli are copying us. They're trying to.
Yeah, I want a copyright infringement lawsuit.
Yeah, they're doing a good job with it. But I hope the fans that do watch it, or if they watch it after the game's over, it's all a support pattern from us at Rivals to try to support the team, but give a pretty good idea about what's going on and have a good time at the same time watching them. We tell a few stories and things like that, and give a couple little Elvis stuff, and whatever it takes. Elvis is always in my building. I got that pillow down there that I keep because I'm a big Elvis fan.
We do have a lot of Elvis chatter on the show. That watch along show will be at noon this weekend. That'll start then. I'll have the stream up about 11:45 a.m. Eastern time. It's going to be the same for next week. And that leads into this question, which if you have a question for us for the remainder of the show, leave it in the YouTube chat. Usually we take questions from the event at UGASports.com. We want to give love to our friends over on YouTube as well. So we're only taking YouTube questions today. And this one is from Brian Wilkerson. It says, if Arkansas beats Texas A&M with a game time change for a possible top 10 matchup between Georgia and Arkansas, I can answer that one as a media guy. No, once that gets locked in, that is the game time. Georgia will play Arkansas at noon, regardless of what happens this weekend. The only exceptions in those cases, sometimes TV outlets will have like a extra window that they can use. I think you get like 2 of them a year, but they just delay in making the decision. So like in the case, I think Florida and Kentucky for next weekend, that could either be at 6 or 7. ESPN's got to decide where they want to put that game. But that's not the case for this one. This is going to be a noon kickoff, Arkansas at Georgia.
Yeah, I think in looking at it, their CBS is thinking, hey, Ole Miss has got an open date. Alabama's playing Southern Miss. It's just going to be a big deal, for Lane Kiffin to come into Alabama and have his team there, and they're going to be undefeated, and Alabama is, and it's just more of a matchup as far as what they've shown compared to Arkansas. Although Arkansas has done a good job, there's no question about it, and they're really a good team. But Arkansas has got a chance this week too. I mean, they haven't beaten A&M in a long time, so that's the way they look at it. I mean, we look at it. Hey, we should be playing. I'm talking about us here. We should be playing at 3:30 or playing at night. So realistically, I can see where CBS is coming from, and I don't blame them as far as what the game's projected. I mean, you just got that psyche about Lane Kiffin and all going against the dictator. And here's what's unbelievable to me: all these people keep talking about, hey, Lane Kiffin calling the plays. No, he doesn't even call the plays anymore. He just he's certainly the head coach and runs the show and all that, but their offensive coordinators upstairs, he's calling the play. So it's not Lane Kiffin against Nick Saban. Neither one of them call the plays, but they're heads. So we'll see how it all works out.
Yeah, but that's what we always think, though, coaches. You think that Kirby Smart's calling all the defensive plays. You think that your offensive coach, like Lane Kiffin's, calling all the offensive ones. They're like, you're calling all the offensive plays when you're the head coach because you were such a good offensive coordinator. It's just that the coordinator underneath the head coach oftentimes just like, well, people say Kirby Smart didn't call the defense at Alabama, and they don't give Dan Lanning credit now where he's at. It's just it's lazy, but it's true.
Yeah, I mean, hey, that's what it is. But certainly Kirby has a big input into it, and I'm sure Coach Kiffin does and Coach Saban does. But it's just players win games, man, and players lose games. I tell you, coaches get way too much credit and way too much blame. But I think certainly some things that concern me about Alabama, we'll get into it, their lack of tackling in space, their inability to have a plan against the quarterback runs, and on offense, just the way they always take the clock down to the last second like pro teams. They had no advantage in running quick against Florida. I mean, Florida could substitute, get their sets and everything, and they really got a beat on them. They went 3 times in a row out. How many times have you ever seen an Alabama team have less than 100 yards rushing? I can't remember that happening in a long time. So there's some concerns there with their O-line had trouble movement. That Carter kid got after him, and they moved. Grantham's going to move his defense, and they worked on him with that and got a lot of lost yardage plays. So hopefully some of these things will persist when we get them, if they get to the championship game we do. But there's some tough road to hoe for that Bama team. They got to go to A&M. They got to play Ole Miss. They got to play Arkansas. I mean, that Western Division's loaded.
It is. And when the Iron Bowl comes around, that's never a given, regardless of who the players are. That's just one of those games. The talent usually prevails, but in the Iron Bowl, it doesn't always. It's just that happens in rivalry weeks.
It happens, that's for sure. But based on what I saw Saturday night, Auburn will have to trade for some players if they're going to play with Bama. I mean, they just don't have enough guys right now. But and I saw where the Greg McElroy, the Feinbaum asked him, I saw on Twitter, where would Penn State fit in the West? He said they'd be 4th or at best in the West, which I agree, and 3rd at best in the East, which I agree. So, that puts them 7th in the SEC, and they're ranked in the top 10 in the country. That just shows you where the Big Ten is.
It does. Here's the comment from Stacy Goebel, just says that Kirby Smart has Georgia's program in a position to be on top for a very long time. I think we all agree with that.
The most definitely. I mean, you got to figure this is his 6th year here, right? And he's really sometimes it takes coaches a long time to get to that point where they're playing for everything. I mean, we're right up there, already got 3 championships in the Eastern Division. I can see, I can see a lot of things ahead of us this year. And we do lose some pretty good players on defense this year. There's no question about that. We're going to lose some guys to the draft and graduation, but we got them stockpile coming up too. I think some of these younger these are going to be good. They're just got to get their feet wet and everything. But I'm fired up about Ringo. I really do think he's going to be a special corner for us.
He's fun to watch. And, as Coach says, Alabama's going to lose 4 games this year. So that's fantastic.
I didn't say that. Somebody would have cut on and heard you say that and thought that I said it. But that's what you need to bring me, whatever it is. What is it? Pulled pork?
That is the smoked pork plate here at Classic City Eats.
Yeah. I was looking forward to one of those Philly steak sandwiches, but I'll take either one.
Yeah. Well, then I got you. I got the sliders over here. So we got the chicken sliders and the.
Yeah, I mean that's
what those chicken tender sliders. Those are phenomenal.
That's the way to rock. That's the way to rock. And,
somebody's got to do the hard. Somebody's got to do the hard work over here. You guys are talking about Alabama losing 7 games, and I got to keep us on track.
What's impressive about the Classic City Eats out there is just all the things that you can do with your family besides eat a good meal. You can go out there and your kids can play the video games. You can go back there and work on your golf game, and you can see you got all the TVs. I mean, it's just a really good setting for family atmosphere and takeout, man. You got to go down to the lake, stop and pick up something. I'm sold on Classic City Eats. I'm telling you that right now.
Same here. But are you sold on this Florida team, Coach? I want to ask you about that because you talked about, Alabama had some issues tackling and what Grantham did with his defense. But if you hear the Florida fans, and again, it's fans, but the media too, yeah, nobody wants to celebrate a moral victory, but they're damn sure claiming this as a moral victory. They feel
they should.
Back.
They should.
How much of this is valid?
When you look at Florida against this Alabama team, they've gotten over 800 yards and 47 points last year and 27 this year. I mean, that's a lot of points against the Alabama defense. So encouraging there. But at the same time, I think playing without that other quarterback hurt them too, because you saw how Emory Jones was able to run. I think this other kid, Richardson, even more a threat, particularly with his. It'll be. They've got to develop a passing game to go with the running game, no question. But they didn't need to throw it against Alabama after the first quarter, but they just got behind. But certainly, they're a challenging team. Their defense really improved as the game went, but early on they just stopped Alabama. So. But I was impressed with they could stop the run, and it'll be a competitive game against them, no question about it. But I think I know right defense is better than Alabama's based on what I've seen to this point, particularly in the tackling department. I guarantee they line up against us and go down to the last second on their calls. Kirby and Lanning will change the defense 4 times before they snap it. I mean, you talk about shifting and everything, they'll look like we're doing some kind of conga dance the way we're moving around. If they do all that, I mean, and there was another example last week. We shifted the first time against South Carolina and they jumped. I mean, do you watch the tape?
I agree. When you watch them do that, though, they do it so well. I mean, it looks like the Rockettes, it looks choreographed because they all move at once. And as a former, way back in the day, offensive lineman, when the whole defense moves like that, in your little turtle brain in the back of your head, it makes you jump because it feels like the snap. It feels like the snaps come off, and you're like, oh shit, did I miss it? And whereas if one guy's moving, another guy's moving, you're used to all that. But when they all move at once, you're like, it's an instinctive reaction because you've been trained since you were 4 or 5 years old back in Decatur, Glenwood Hills football. Shout out, 4 years old. Move on the ball, move, jump, speed, fast, go quickly.
Yeah, that's true.
And so they all move at once. You're like, oh, did I miss something? It's effective. I love it.
They should all scream in unison at the same, to scare them.
They got us one time.
You get a penalty for that, though.
They got us one time for Nakobe saying jump or something like that. And it can't be anything that's similar to what their snap count is, but or clapping. If you clap over there, then it simulates what quarterback does. You can't do that. But I think thing that's really symbolic of our team right now is the spirit that our fans are showing, that they're just glad to be back in the stand. And particularly this, I heard Kirby mention the student section. I mean, that's overwhelming. When you look at recruits coming in here, and I don't know who got the most time TV the other day, Arch or his dad, but those guys were covered, and when that's impressive. I mean, see that kind of support, and also got to be impressive to see our receivers that are looking good out there, young. When Arch asked his dad, what year is that number 19? He's a freshman. Oh, he is. What year is that number 5? He's a freshman. Oh, he is. What year is that Burton? He's a sophomore. I mean, over and over. I mean, you got to look at who you go putting gas, and then he looked. He got in the offensive line. That number 59. What year is he? Redshirt. Not about 65. He's a true freshman. Ooh, I think he probably could protect me. What about that kid on the sideline with his foot limping there? Number 0 looks like an NBA basketball player. 0. Oh, he's a red shirt. He's a sophomore. So I mean, over and over, the talent that you can have. So, and the other thing that people say, it just really wasting your breath and you're wasting your time on any kind of statement. Well, he's going to be worried about Gunner Stockton, and he's going to be worried about these guys. Hey, a really good quarterback feels like he can play, and he's system and everything else. He doesn't worry about. There's nothing you can do about it. Hey, you're going to have competition wherever you go. Everybody says Texas is one of the places they signed. They got the best quarterback, the dual threat quarterback in the country committed to him, coming in there as a true freshman next year. You think that's going to bother Arch? No, I mean he's not going to be worried about that. And so I just think that's, from a coaching perspective, from a recruiting perspective, from a guy that's been around the block. Hey, take that off event, man. Those kids don't worry about the other players.
I agree, Coach. I mean, I use the example, like I said, when we had you on the first time, we asked you, give me your top 3 recruits you'd like to see Georgia sign. You said Justin Fields. And we're like, well, they already have Jacob Eason and Jake Fromm, 2 5-star guys in back-to-back classes. They still signed Justin Fields. He still can, So Gunner Stockton's not worried about Brock Vandagriff. Right. He's like, I can do it. Brock Vandagriff wasn't worried about JT Daniels or anybody else. He's like, hey, I know you got Carson Beck, but I think I can do it. And it's again, and you want that cockiness. You want that chip on the shoulder. You want that guy to come in here. And Arch Manning ain't worried about a damn person over there because he's like, look, and it's not going to change if you go whatever school you go to. It's the same with these running backs. I go back to Alvin Camarda. He was the 4th running back Alabama took in that class, and everyone thought that he's 4th on the depth chart because he was the 4th one to commit. And I'm like, Alvin, what's up? He goes, I'm better than Alty Tiddenpenny. I'm better than these other guys. He didn't, in his mind, he wasn't the 4th guy. He's just the 4th guy to commit. He's the number 1.
You just chat the kid and say, look, somebody's going to be the quarterback here. Somebody's going to, and why worry about, you got no idea what this guy can do. I mean, there's a reason you're the number 1 quarterback in the country. There's a reason why all these people are coming down there beating your door down. I mean, so, and the other thing is, it's 2 years from now. I mean, come on. Yeah. I mean, he's got another year after this one. So unless he can pull that thing like that kid did up in
Ewers, yeah.
Yeah. So
Bentley did it. Yeah.
Yeah, I do want to give a shout out to the Georgia paint line. That went viral. The guys that paint themselves with messages. They always have a good message. There's always something interesting, something.
That was great.
Pray for Wendy, but when they went down there and said, "We want Arch," painted it on their backs so that every time there's a TV timeout, they turned around. And Arch Manning, the number 1 player for 2023, is sitting over there with his dad, Cooper, and some other, Eni White out of Philadelphia is over there. Ernest Green out of California, the big offensive guard, he's over there. They watched the Georgia student section fill up first, absolutely filled up. There's a great picture of the students were out long before anybody else. That whole student section was full. And then you have the spike squad and you have the paint line down there with a giant "We Want Arch" painted on their bodies. Even if you weren't Arch, if you're Eni White, who we put a prediction for Georgia into recently, and Ernest Green, who we have a very good update on him, top offensive guard, go to the vault at UGASports.com. We have these updates. They saw how much the Georgia fan base is into recruits. And then they saw, like you said, you watch Brock Bowers go out there. He's up to 203 yards now. That's the most for a tight end since Isaac Naughton in 2018. Thank you, Trent. And Dave's looking up. Georgia's not had a tight end go over 500 yards in forever. This guy is leading the team three games in. And you see A.D. Mitchell getting SEC Freshman of the Week. And you're like, I'm young. It doesn't matter. I can go.
Didn't I just say this for 5 minutes ago? And you just
I'm confirming your point. But the thing is, they see it and they're like, wow. In other words, when you get the student body out there putting out a recruiting message for guys like that, you can go at these kids with, we think you're going to make it to the NFL. They all hear that. We think you're going to have playing time. They all hear that. But how many schools have done something like that? Nobody. So good job, UGA paint line. The recruits saw it. They appreciated it. And then, of course, that night game with the lights going off, that was fantastic. And I can tell you right now, Kirby Smart is mad as hell in his heart of hearts that Georgia's playing back-to-back noon games, not because of the time. I'm sure he'd like to have his afternoon free, but it really damages recruiting because you can't get those guys in there early enough. That's the pain in the ass when it comes to 12 o'clock games. Vandy won't matter, but for home, they'd love to have a 7:30 Arkansas game. Go ahead.
It's tough to get a kid in here that early, I mean, because by 11 o'clock, you got to start warming up and doing all that. Yeah. You just hope that if they get in late, you'll bring them in there, talk to them on the field or something, or after the game. But it's definitely a negative on there, unless the guy's making an official visit, which you're going to keep over. And that's the thing about coaching. I just amazing. We had like 3 kids on official visit, and you finish the game, you win. It's 7:30 night game. You finish at 11. You got to take this kid and the parents out, and then next morning meeting them for breakfast. Then you got to grade the film, and then you got to go over and meet them for lunch, and then you got to take you meet with whatever it might be. Some of these people are on an unofficial visit, and then you got to start looking at Vanderbilt, and then you got to meet them for dinner. And I mean, it's tough. I mean, these guys get paid a lot, but I'm going to tell you,
I'm not crying for them.
It takes a lot out of you, though, on an official visit during a game when you have a game. That's because you got to have your game face on, and then you got to have your recruiting face on. And I'm sure we did a good job with it.
Speaking of the games, let me mention this real quick. If you were watching this game at noon the next 2 weekends, which I'm sure you will be, and you're in the Athens area, let's say, of course, you're not going to go up to Nashville, or you don't have tickets for the Arkansas game, swing by our friends at Academia Brewing Company. They have giant TVs set up. They have the lounge where you can sit on those great couches. They have all those fantastic beers to choose from. The beer list is usually like 2 pages long. It's ones that they make. It's ones they do in conjunction with other people. They do these collaborative beers that are fantastic. This week, of course, they have trivia on Tuesday. Then they have live music on Thursday. Then they have the beer and biscuit brunch on Saturday and Sunday. They do that all the time. But this Saturday at noon, you're going to have the giant game. And I tell people, get the triplata sandwich. It's kind of my favorite. But they also have triplata fries. And what that is they take their hand-cut fries, and they cover them in slow roasted Caribbean pork shoulder, black forest ham, peppered pastrami, onions, and ale cheese. And if you don't like that, then there's no saving you. There's nothing we can do for you. But check out our friends at Academia Brewing Company. Try the great beer, try the great food out there. You'll love it. It's a great place to watch the game. And if you're not in Athens, then hit up our friends at Your Pie. They've been a sponsor of the show since its very beginning. And I can tell you that Drew French and Natalie French are giant Georgia fans. Their daughters are always over at the tennis stadium watching games. They support Georgia in all, not just football, in all of the sports. And we'd like for you to support all their franchisees. There are 70+ stores. So hit up any of the Your Pie stores. Get the Nat Pizza, the Lineage, the Southern Heat, which is my favorite. great whites. They have fantastic ones. Now they have a giant 14-inch pizza that you can order online. You can do it today and get double points. And that is a great one for a tailgate, or watching the game. You can always do the personal ones, the smaller ones. And I say small, they're this big, they fill you up. But if you're having a big party, you can customize them the way you want it and get the big 14-inch pizza. So, and order on the app, get double points on Tuesday. If you wait till Saturday, still use the app because you get free breadsticks, free gelato, free salads, all sorts of stuff like that, and free pizzas by using their app. So shout out to them as well.
Let's do a speed round here to end our show from the questions on our YouTube chat. Jamel Major had asked, what were the high-profile recruits saying after the game? Roddy just gave you a breakdown of what that was, and you can find more at the vault at UGAsports.com. So quick answers, guys.
For one of them.
Al McConnell asked, should Georgia be ranked number 1?
I don't think so. I think to be, you're right there with the number 1 team in the country in Alabama. I think 1 and 2 is fair, but to me, you need to beat Alabama. So that's just my take.
I'm with you. The sports vent asked, Devon Willock, is he a right guard possibility?
I absolutely think so. And Coach Donovan's been raving about him for months, and he says that, hey, maybe they're looking to put somebody in there, for size. If you're trying to bring in a size guy, that's him. And I mean, Coach knows more about Willock than anybody, but I've heard nothing but great things about him. So that wouldn't surprise me. Coach.
I think Coach may have just had a connection issue on here, so he may pop back in.
No,
Derek Bradshaw asked, is it me or is Channing Tindall the most impressive guy flying around the field?
He is. In our group chat, they're talking about the sheer number of tackles he has. Do you have that in front of you? Because it was nuts. He leads the team in tackles, 17, which is pretty impressive. But he hasn't had as many snaps. So Quay Walker's played 97 snaps with 4 total tackles. Channing Tindall has 74 snaps with 17 total tackles. So maybe 23 less snaps, but 13 more tackles. Now, part of it is where you line up and what your responsibilities are and where the ball goes, but he's not missing tackles. That's the thing, and Coach has been talking about how well this team tackles. And I know when you talk about size and speed and fundamentals, people's eyes roll into their head because we like to talk about things that are more exciting. But I have been on the sideline and just I go back to the Tennessee game where Georgia's pummeling Tennessee, and then all of a sudden they forgot how to tackle, and you couldn't tackle Josh Dobbs, and he's just running all over you. I'm like, Josh Dobbs is 135 pounds wet. Now, granted, I love him; he's a great kid, and always enjoyed. I've covered him back when he had no offers, but this is a guy that ran all over you because you couldn't tackle. Fundamentally, you were bad, and this team, you don't see a lot of yards after contact with these guys. They drop people, so I thought that was very impressive. Channing Tindall does look like one of the best guys out there.
Keith Simmons asked, what is the deal with Julian Rochester?
Julian, he's there. It's just not Julian's never been that kind of big star. It's he's he came in last year towards the end of games and would have a big play and stuff. But you put Julian in and take Devontae Wyatt out. Do you put Julian and take Jordan Davis out? He's there. He's going to help you out, but is he better than those guys? No, don't get me wrong. Julian Rochester's a great guy. He's been at Georgia since the 1970s and integral part of this team, but he's just when you try to bring in a guy, you have to take somebody out. And I don't know who you're going to do it. The guy that's really blown my mind is Tramel Walther. I thought he was way too undersized a little, when he first came to Georgia. He has put on muscle mass. In the last few games, he has been an absolute terror. You missed Devontae Wyatt for UAB. He made up for it this past game. So, again, it's where do you put Julian Rochester? Who are you taking out to put him in?
Exactly. Coach, a question that came from the sports vent, Devon Willock at right guard. Is that a possibility?
He's muted.
Let's see.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we've got you.
All right. So I don't know what happened there to my internet, but you probably got.
I didn't pay your bill.
Busted me pretty. That's probably true here. I'm not real good. I'm having to learn how to do a lot of that stuff I never did before since my wife passed away. But the question was what?
Devon Willock, is he a possibility at right guard?
Yeah, I think for sure. I'm earlier in the show about the larger guy playing in there, and I could see Truss maybe being a little bit more experienced and getting a Willock would be a guy you look at too. So, you also look at Salyer with Jones or Mims playing tackle too. But Erickson's playing good. But you start playing against team that run more of a 4-man front and play a 2 technique or 1 or 3 where you got to block a guy straight up. I mean, that's not his forte.
Final question, and we'll get out on this one. Run Lindsay says, Coach, why are you so hard on Roddy lately? You've been jumping on his ass like our defense has been jumping on everyone George has played. I hear you, and I feel like Shane Beamer saying, damn, or does he deserve it?
No, I was just busting him because he was copying my stuff, man.
Hey, I was steal from the greatest, man. There's no way about it.
I was wondering if he was listening to what I said, but he obviously has his own opinion too. Hey, I don't mean to be hard on Roddy. I mean, no, hey, listen here, man. I live by myself. I'm over here 24/7 in this house, and I'm probably a little bit too ornery. So y'all forgive me for being like that because I don't have a chance to be around a lot. Don't feel sorry for me. But hey, if I'm jumping on him, I apologize. But I do feel like this about our team that I hope everybody enjoys that. Like maybe they'll go out there and get that pull and enjoy it because we got a special team here. We really got some kids that play hard. They love to play with each other, be on the same team with each other. There's good interaction and we can find a lot of warts on anybody, but this team right here is one of the things that I always try to harp on, say there's no greater reward than team big. And I think these kids aren't worried about individual stats and all that stuff. We don't have many guys on the preseason All-American team and the All-Conference and all that, but we do have a team-oriented group led by our coach and our coaching staff.
Absolutely, that is true.
When we were doing our speaking tour, and folks, remember, if you want us to come speak to your Bulldog Club, just hit me up and we'll make the arrangements. But it's Coach and I have a fun back and forth we do at these Bulldog Club meetings, and they are hilarious. And I bust on him and he busts on me, and we have a lot of inside jokes that people don't catch. So if I'm ever appear to be the object of derision, is because he's busted on me, because it's the same inside jokes we always have when we do these shows. So folks, again, we did St. Mary's. That was a great club. We hit Valdosta on that same trip. We've been out to Carrollton. I just went back to Jacksonville. So if you want us to come to your Bulldog Club meeting and talk and get some real good inside scoop, hit me up on Twitter or Facebook, or just Roddy at UGASports.com. Send me an email and we will set it up. And we'll give a shout out to Nate Long, who came out to the Classics to the Eats over here and is having a nice lunch. He's been a big supporter of our show, as have Your Pie, Dead Soxy, and Athens Ford, and Academic Brewing Company. They've all been good to us, and we appreciate everybody tuning in and watching our show. And hopefully you will tune in next Tuesday at noon, where we talk about the win over Vandy and preview the game coming up with Arkansas. I think that was all the questions we had in today.
That's it.
All right, good. Folks, be sure to tune in at 11:45 for the watch along show this coming Saturday, and we will be ready to go and break down the game in real time. There ain't nothing like it. So tune in this Saturday, 11:45.